Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy. All right, folks, here we are after market close on Wednesday, October 27th. We're going to take a look at DraftKings today. I put out two polls. Anytime I put out a poll, I put it two places, on Twitter and on YouTube. On YouTube, DraftKings pretty handily won the poll. On Twitter, Wish really handily won. So I put them out in both places knowing that that might mean that I make two videos, but that's totally fine. So hopefully this is enjoyable to folks who voted for it. But I first wanted to go through the charting and then flip over to Ortex and see what the data is looking like as it pertains to DraftKings. So I see a couple of things here. I see a couple of potential hopeful signs. I see a couple of things to sort of look out for. Now, let's talk about the look out for first. What I would be a little bit cautious of here is as the price action potentially gets, in this area here, I would just be cautious that it doesn't start forming a head and shoulders. I have a potential shoulder here and a really clear head. And now if we do come up and get another shoulder, hopefully it would have already happened if that were to take place. Obviously, and that pattern, for folks who aren't familiar, but you could just Google it, is a bearish pattern. That usually looks like a shoulder, like, a sort of bump in the price, and then a bigger bump, which is the head, and then another smaller bump that makes another shoulder. So hopefully I would have sort of already put that in, like in the space where I am moving my cursor. But, on the off chance that it's sort of doing something a little bit funky and sort of an offset head and shoulders, I would just kind of watch for that. The couple of possible bullish opportunities, though, look like this. Actually, let me put a ray in here so it extends 39.93, and then we'll catch this one. Okay, so this just catches also this one here, and then it's gapped up there a bit, and then maybe it's coming down to kind of fill this gap at the moment, which might pull it down closer to like mid to low 47s if it needs to come down and totally fill that gap. But the bullish trend here is that it holds this uptrend support, right? And or maybe it starts to come around and create a cup formation. So the other spot that I'd be looking at, I'm trying to think what to put in here. I'm going to throw a horizontal line on this, but this is just to say that any sort of retest of this area, 64.52, if it happens relatively soon, could come down, consolidate a bit, and then start to rise up. So we'd have this really nice cup. And if that happens, there could be a couple of things. It could blow off the top of the cup and sort of have a breakout at that point, or it could come up and then draw back a little bit, put in a cup and handle, and then bust through that 64.52 zone. So those are the couple of, or I guess a few options that I look for. This is, to me, the bearish thing to look out for, and then the bullish case is just following up this trend line and or putting in a cup and possibly blowing off the top, or cup and handle and then blowing through. Obviously, the other implication here that could be bearish would be if it cannot hold this yellow uptrend support. If that happens, then obviously it's in a different sort of situation as well, and could be struggling. But it looks like it really wants to kind of stay within this range for a little bit, and so that's kind of what I would look for it to potentially do. Just kind of like take a little bit of a breath, consolidate in this range, and then see where it wants to make its move. So that's what I would be looking for at the moment. And I don't think we need to muddy up the chart with a bunch of other stuff. We can put in a few resistance points that it'll probably get. This will be a pretty strong resistance point here, right around the $50 mark. You see this support that then flipped to very clear resistance, right? And so the other sort of action that you could get here is sort of an ascending triangle, which we've been talking about a lot lately in a lot of different stocks. But if it can hold this uptrend supports, and it would sort of potentially have a nice breakthrough here as it reaches that 50.75 resistance level, but this dates back back here earlier in the year as well. It's quite impactful all throughout this time period when it started establishing and then confirming this uptrend support. That 50.75 has played a strong role. Above that, I don't actually think we need to throw in a line for this white zone because that just is that. But just above it there is this 55.87. That would be, so I think you have pretty solid run room. So that's why if it rejects hard off of this area, that's when I would maybe be a little bit concerned, especially low in this box. That's where I would maybe say, okay, maybe, ramp up the caution here a little bit. But otherwise, I think it should more truly test that 55.87 area. You see it flipped it here from support to resistance. Back here, it was clear resistance, and it flipped it here from support to resistance as well. And that's led to pretty decent kind of flips in price action every time it's rotated around that pivot point of 55.87. But other than that, I don't think there's sort of a super great reason to throw a bunch of other stuff on the chart and just kind of muddy it up. There's a bits of a downtrend resistance here too if you come from this 74.38 to this topping out. So, but I mean, it's not that close to it at this point. I could throw it in and then take it off. 74.38. And then just hitting this here. So you see here, but I mean, it wouldn't intersect with that, even if it did. I think that these blow-offs of the ascending triangle would be sort of much more impactful. But this would obviously get it out of pretty long-term resistance levels. This established in March of 2021. So something else to consider. I think I'd leave it there. It's not that sort of big of a deal to leave it on the chart. It's still pretty clean. All right, so let's flip over to the data. And DraftKings here, I mean, a bunch of return potential per the consensus price target and the analysts. Still a pretty good spread in DraftKings bullish favor. 18 buys, 8 holds, and just 1 sell. But that price target just shy of $70. So return potential over 42% at the moment. And so the juxtaposition there is that's the return potential. Again, this isn't to say that it has to get there because the analysts say that it could, but it's more that if that influences retail or institutions to come buy in because they think that there's outsized return potential, that could influence the buying pressure. But anyway, the juxtaposition of that versus the price change in the last month of being down over 5%, obviously quite a disparity there. But also you see here insiders with a lot of sales in the last year, a lot of those coming recently, right? 6 months ago. And 3 months, just the past 3 months, over 300 million. And the last month, almost 62 million, a lot of transactions. So I don't exactly know what that's all about. I'm sure folks who are more familiar could drop some info in the comment section below if you have details on what's going on with all this insider selling and no buying. But yeah, that's certainly probably not helping out this kind of a situation here. Now the shorts also potentially not helping out that situation there, but they drew down quite a bit today actually. So dropping under 10%, it's just 8.42% of the free float being shorted per Ortex's estimates. Days to cover though, still quite high, 3.36. So shorts are kind of coming in and sticking around. Cost to borrow is negligible, so that's not keeping them away, and there's a lot of shares left to borrow. It's under 25% utilization. So still a lot of pressure that the shorts could put on there. I think the days to cover sort of mixed with this being slightly under 10% probably might feel a little bit heavier, the presence of the short sellers, because they're holding on to them for a bit. But if this were to get back into double digits, then I would maybe say it's something to be more concerned about. But looks like it was in double digits at this point, it appears. I don't know, this thing is always so hard to read for me. But anyway, yeah. But that's the way that I see the chart and the data. And, Definitely wish you the best if you're in DraftKings. I've been in and out of it several times before. I don't currently have a position, but I'll keep an eye, especially if this ascending triangle continues to take shape, because then there could be several of them, which could be really interesting. So, all right, folks. So I hope you had a good hump day and that you are able to close out the trading week strong in the days ahead. And I appreciate you watching. I will see you in the next video.